Welcome everybody to how can your organization and suppliers benefit from PeopleSoft self-service. We'll get going here. So our agenda for today, we'll do some quick introductions. We'll do a quick about MIPRO. We'll talk about our presentation goals, and the vast majority, 90% of everything you see today will be a demo. We're going to do a demo of the public supplier homepage and the secure supplier homepage. Then we'll show you some information sources about supplier self-service and open it up for some Q&A. So with that, some introductions. I'm Larry Zagata with MIPRO Consulting. I'm our VP of Delivery and Managing Partner, responsible for our consulting practice. Been in PeopleSoft since 1996, and happy to be your presenter today. So, Amira, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Amira Morcos. I lead the strategy team focusing on PeopleSoft financials, and I started with PeopleSoft a little bit after Larry did. I started in 1998, so it's been a nice ride. I lead the strategy team focusing on the financials products, which includes PeopleSoft eSettlements.
Thanks, Amira. Bob?
Yeah, my name is Bob Block, and I'm the product strategy manager for PeopleSoft's purchasing, strategic sourcing, and supplier contract management. I've been with Oracle for about 5 years, but have spent about 18 years in the consulting world doing upgrades and implementations.
Great, thank you. And so we'll have some great resources to help with content and some questions at the end. All right, so real quick about MIPRO. MIPRO was founded in 2005 by some former PeopleSoft executives. We've done over 600 engagements throughout North America. What's different or unique about MIPRO is we only do PeopleSoft. That is our entire focus. It's our passion, what we enjoy, and what we like to think we have some expertise in. We do everything PeopleSoft, whether it's financial, supply chain, HCM, ALM, upgrades, implementations, managed services, optimizations, everything around the PeopleSoft platform is definitely what we enjoy. Okay. And with that, our presentation goals. So in this, we are going to demo so you can understand some features and capabilities of really enabling your supply chain suppliers, the ability to have self-service and be collaborative with your organization through PeopleSoft. So we're not going to go real deep into functionality, but our overall goal is to show you what you can allow your suppliers to do with the overall objective of relieving some of the burden and maintenance from your own organization and placing it onto your suppliers. So we're hoping that you'll leave with an understanding of how extending PeopleSoft to your supply chain suppliers can reduce your overall time commitments, free up your resources to do much more value add and strategic activities. So hopefully that is what everybody leaves the presentation today with. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the demo. So here we have our supplier public homepage. And you can think of this, if you've ever gone to another vendor's web or a company's website, they have a section typically called something like doing business with us. You'll click on that and they'll have some information about how to become a supplier or bidding opportunities or procurement opportunities. That's kind of what this is here. It's introducing your organization to potential suppliers and giving the information that they need to be able to determine if they want to do business or apply to do business with your organization. So here we have a number of things, and I'm going to be logged in as a supplier with probably a little bit more access than a lot of suppliers may have, is more administration access. So you may see some things that you may not give to all your suppliers, and we'll talk about that. That can be controlled through roles and security, but you'll probably see a little bit more than you may would your typical supplier. So just a little warning about that. So first, what you want to do is you set this up. You can set it up your welcome tile. Here, you're just introducing your organization to suppliers. talking about what you're looking for in suppliers, the expectations of their suppliers. You can really put anything you want here on your welcome screen for your suppliers. It's really a way to introduce yourself and set your expectations. You can also set up announcements. So if you have things that you want to make sure suppliers are to be aware of, such as your schedule for, you're closed over the holidays, maybe some awards you've won, any particular announcement that you want to have for your suppliers to make them aware of, you have a tile for announcements. There's also a calendar tile. I don't have anything here, but if you had training sessions for suppliers, if you had monthly webcasts that you wanted suppliers to attend, you would put that all in their events calendar to make people aware of it. You could have a learning to do business with your organization event, whatever the case may be. You can upload it into calendars. There's also FAQs. In most cases, this is the how do I register, how do I become a supplier, and ideally you make this as detailed as you can, so the supplier has really all the information they need to proceed to try to become a supplier, and you don't have to answer a bunch of questions. All the information is found here. So again, you can configure this with whatever content is pertinent for your organization to help your suppliers move forward within your organization. So those are some of the more the static things, the maintenance activities, if you will. There are activities that are a little bit more associated with buying and purchasing on the public site as well. Mainly those are around bidding opportunities through strategic sourcing. So you can make your opportunities public, and you can have public events here under your opportunities. So for example, there is a open event for your suppliers. Your supplier can look and decide at the details and decide, this is something I may or may not want to bid on. And if I do want to bid on it, I can proceed and try to become a registered bidder to participate. So in this case, we can view the bid package, or the supplier can view the bid package, open it up in PDF or XML, and see what it's all about. See that we've got a monitor, 5 of them, price is weighted heavily, but there's also a warranty price. So they can really look at the opportunity and decide if that's something they want to participate in and bid. Now they can't act upon it here, they can only look at it. But again, this is kind of the setup so your supplier can decide if they want to proceed, decide if they want to participate and bid. Okay. And Bob, I think you had some functionality coming or that you wanted to discuss here?
Yeah, we have some functionality that we're currently in design mode for that's going to make this process much easier for your suppliers. And that's going to include, it's going to be built on Fluid, so it's going to have a Fluid user interface. It's also going to have a train stop activity guide, so the supplier will know exactly where they are in the bid process. So if they're reviewing the header information, line information, or maybe even reviewing errors and stuff. Speaking of that, we've enhanced the way that errors are being displayed, where it's a lot more intuitive as to what that needs to be fixed, and they can click a button to go ahead and make edits or changes to resolve those errors. And then finally, we're going to give a summary view of what is it that they've submitted and a confirmation as to when that's been submitted. So look for that coming out in the next year or so. We're currently, again, in the design mode, or excuse me, development mode.
That's great. Thanks, Bob. And moving on, associated with the bidding opportunity, there's also notice of intent to award. You see, I don't have anything here, but your suppliers can certainly extend their time frame to pull in more. So we'll make some adjustments to what shows, and you can see that perhaps there was a previous bid, and there's now an intent to award. So we can click on that, or your supplier can click on that and understand that, the intent to award was going to Wendy's Enterprise. These are the other suppliers who bid in the process. If there's rejection reasons, they would show up here. That's certainly something you can configure to show if you want a lot of detail there or not. The supplier could click on the actual notice of award or intent to award, and when that comes up, they can see the actual, again, if you configure it so, the actual pricing and response from Wendy's. And again, if you wanted additional rejection reasons. So allows your suppliers to see who was awarded and what the intent of awards were going to be for the previous events. Also, you'll see here there is registration options for your suppliers. So now your suppliers can take a look at your organization, the FAQs, some of the events. They perhaps looked at some of the public auctions or events that are out there, and they want to participate. So your supplier has the option to register themselves. So for instance, if they want to become a bidder, there's a nice train stop process for them to follow, where they update their content, they follow the process, update their tax numbers, their entity names. There's profile questions you can set up, standard industry codes, etc. So they can follow this process all the way through to the end, and then submit it, and you can have your approval process to allow your supplier to become a bidder. They can follow the same process, registering as a complete supplier. Again, kind of the train stop process, and they fill it out and follow it till the end. Once they submit it, then you can have your internal approvals take over. What's nice about this is they fill out all the information that you would have to enter into PeopleSoft yourself if somebody in AP or purchasing were to enter in and create a supplier. But it certainly takes the burden and maintenance off your organization and pushes it right back to the supplier with all the correct information being entered from your supplier. And once a supplier is actually registered as a supplier, then they can also request a user ID. And this will actually get them access to the secure supplier portal. They can fill in all the required information and submit it. And again, depending on how you have it set up, go through the approval process and have access to more options on the secure portal side. So again, we're trying to move more of that maintenance and initial setup to your suppliers and relieve the burden off of your internal organization. And then, once they have that user access, then certainly they have the ability to sign in from there and have access to the secure portal. And before we move to the secure portal, one thing that I just wanted to show is we've certainly seen everything here in Fluid, and definitely the way to go. There is a Classic Plus version, of course, that can be used. Obviously, same content, structured, shown in a very different manner. But if you haven't made that leap to the Fluid as of yet, there still is the Classic Plus option. Okay. So with that, I'd like to move on and show some of the more interactive activities that your suppliers, that you can extend to them. What we're going to be showing here are apps that extend functionality from eSupplier, eSettlements, strategic sourcing, supplier contracts, and I'm not set up fully for services procurement, but we'll touch on that just a little bit. So those are the additional add-on modules that will allow your suppliers to take advantage of this self-service. And again, all can be set up and driven by user roles, IDs, security for what you allow your suppliers to do and see. So to start, just a little bit of maintenance. We have the My Preferences tile. This allows you just to give your suppliers the ability to set their own settings. They can look at some general options. They can look at setting their time and things of that nature, pop-up notifications, etc. All you're really doing is just again, so your internal IT staff doesn't have to set things up for your supplier. You can extend their ability to set that up themselves. They also have the ability to set up some of the display options. So for example, when we go into some of these tiles, we're going to see things such as 90 days, 100 days, 1,000 days. They can set that up here to show in the tile the initial content, whether or not, how far it goes back. So they have the ability to be able to configure a lot of that themselves. Again, a little more self-service for your suppliers, so you don't have to set that all up for them. You're putting that emphasis back on your suppliers. There's also under Manage Profile, your suppliers can do some things, again, designed to release, not have your groups or their IT or business assist them constantly. They have the ability to change their password. Okay. They can set up forgotten password help. Again, so lots of times if they forget their password, they don't have to keep calling into your internal IT organization. They can set up personalizations, workflows. They can set up their emails. They can look at their bidder profile, for example. So if they were set up as a supplier, but they need to update their bidding profile, they can update their bidding profile here. They can make themselves active, set it up as a business or individual, their addresses, contacts, etc. For services procurement, they can manage and set up service providers and contacts. They can also initiate supplier change requests, which is big. I know often suppliers are making small changes. They're asking your internal organization to make those updates, which takes a lot of time. Here they can do that themselves. So, for example, they can create a request. Here's a request in process. You can see if they go in and edit and review this request. The supplier has the ability to follow that same train stop and walk through, and they can change their logos or images. They can add all the information that they have there. They can add or change, and in the end they can review their changes, and it'll show them what the current was, what the proposed is. They can withdraw it, or they can save and submit it. So your supplier, the burden and maintenance of keeping up on supplier information and changes pushes back to your supplier. Again, I didn't mention it, this is on the eSupplier side of things. And they can review and look at user profiles. So, again, pushing that maintenance back to your suppliers and off your internal resources. Okay, so next I want to talk about, again, staying with eSupplier, PO acknowledgements. So here there's a tile designed for POs that are awaiting acknowledgement. So your supplier will log in. This allows them to say, okay, I have to take action, acknowledge these purchase orders. They can certainly change the filter, add in more specifics or a broader date range, etc. But with the PO acknowledgement, they can take action. So they can acknowledge it. They can view the dispatch document. So they can click on acknowledge PO, and that would allow them to acknowledge the PO, save it for later, reject it. They can update information. For example, perhaps they want to acknowledge the PO in its entirety, or perhaps half the shipment is going to be delayed. So they have the ability to go ahead and split it and enter in quantities with different dates and back orders, and then go ahead and save and acknowledge it. And of course, they can reset it, they can reject it, etc. So what you're allowing your vendors to, your suppliers to do is, when you are waiting that PO acknowledgement, and this goes right onto their portal, they can take action immediately. And from a buying organization, you can understand and know that the purchase order has been acknowledged immediately, reducing time, and reducing the need for having to call your supplier and check on the purchase order. So it can be a real time saver. And Bob, I think you had some functionality you wanted to talk about here as well.
Right. And can you go to the page you just left to do the acknowledgement?
Absolutely.
What we have as far as an enhancement is this is going to be on the buyer side. So think of the layout that you see here, where you have the lines over to the left, you have the detail information of the line and all the schedule information displayed in one page. What we've done is made this a exception-based type search, meaning you're only going to see the purchase orders that need to be taken action on. So this is the changes that the supplier has made, either maybe a quantity or a date change or a price change, those types of things. And because it's going to be built in Fluid, it also has the intuitive user interface. And also, we've combined both the online response and the EDX into the same component. So it's just one component that does all of the acknowledgements from your organization standpoint. And then we're highlighting the fields that have changed. So if a supplier changed the due date, that would be highlighted as a field when your buyer's doing the review. So they can quickly identify what has changed, and then they can determine if that's acceptable or not. Also, as you see here, you can mark lines as being reviewed and you can save for later. So this allows you to go through a purchase order, maybe it has several lines to it, and you're in the middle of that process, and you see where it says reviewed over here on the left. Well, there's also filters there that you could say either include review or not. And so when you come back, you could exclude or highlight only the rows that need more attention. So that allows you to, it's the line review status, the next one down. But anyway, that gives you a little bit of idea of what's coming, and that should be coming to you fairly soon. Larry, back to you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. It sounds like great enhancement. Okay, so after PO acknowledgement, you also have POs with overdue shipments tile. So now, this really allows your suppliers to take action. Anything that's overdue really is something your supplier wants to avoid, something your organization wants to avoid. So having a tile where your supplier can click on it and focus on that and address those as quickly as possible is really key, and can be a time saver of back and forth of following up as to why it's overdue and being on the phone and extending it here to your supplier. So your supplier can look at it. Over on the left is some summaries, and then your supplier can go ahead and look and see if there's actions that they can take. They can, depending on the status, they can create an ASN, they can view the PO information, the dispatch document, they can create a notification. So, if, we'll show ASNs later, but the supplier can click on, just check out the PO information, look at the line information, the line details, contract information, just to look at the PO information. They click on the schedules that are overdue and understand what exactly is overdue and how long it's overdue. This really hopefully expedites the process of your suppliers fulfilling the purchase orders, and again, reducing that back and forth of questioning, where's it at, why is it late, etc., and extending that activity directly to your supplier and updating your PeopleSoft system. In addition to that, suppliers can review quotes and POs. So if your organization's extended a quote to your supplier, they can log in, they can see that they have a quote that they may be able to respond to. They can certainly click on the details and see what the quote is for. Okay. they can respond to the quote. So they could go ahead and see, here's my RFQ, here's the item information. Click on new, they can fill in all their information, salesperson, supplier item ID, price, quantity, comments, attached files, etc. So again, instead of it being more of a manual process, either faxing, emailing, etc., this allows your suppliers to respond directly and update PeopleSoft directly. Okay. And they have the ability to review purchase orders. So again, they can look at certain time frames, parameters, to limit what comes back. But they have the ability to dig in and look at purchase orders that have been distributed to the supplier, can allow the information we saw before, and they can also take some of the same actions that we saw before, acknowledging it, creating ASN, etc. So again, just giving more information to your suppliers so they can act quickly on your behalf. Now, in terms of ASN, your supplier also has the ability to create an ASN. They can, with a filter, expand their date time frame. I'm going to go way back just to bring some more in. And look at all the different ASNs that they've created prior. And they can look at the details around the ASN, the purchase order information, invoice information if it was available at the time of the ASN. But most importantly, your supplier can go ahead and create an ASN and give you that advanced notification that supplies are being shipped. So to do that, we'll show a quick example here. Your supplier, I'm going to expand the date because I want to pull in some POs. I'll make sure I get some. So your supplier could, oops. There's that desktop that we've seen in a few of our examples. They could hit search. And these are the POs that are available to be pulled onto an ASN. So the supplier would click the purchase order. I'm going to view it. So we'll click include, view ASN. So it pulls in the item ID, the amount that they're shipping, which can be changed. Put the order number there. Pulls in the purchase order number, purchase order 17, the line number, the schedule number, and if available, any invoice information there. That allows the supplier to go ahead and then submit that ASN so your buying organization knows the material is on its way. So again, making it very accurate because it's coming from your supplier, and because it can pull in from purchase orders, allows the information also to be very accurate. So you have a pretty good idea of what's coming and what's when, because it's come right from the supplier itself. Okay. Next is our receipts. So the supplier can look at rejected receipt lines. So for example, show here. Number I wanted to see. Here we have rejected quantity of 1. The supplier can click on it. They can see that 2 were received, 1 was accepted, and 1 was rejected because of damaged goods. So once your organization receives the materials, and it's updated in PeopleSoft in the receiving inspections, the supplier then has access to it, and if there's something that was damaged, they can quickly take action and get your replacement and start the process more quickly of resolving any issues with the materials. So a very good way to expedite the process and resolve issues. And again, this also, since the supplier has the information and it's available to them very quickly. It avoids the burden of follow-up via email, via phone call, etc. A lot of it can be taking place right here online in PeopleSoft. Okay. All right. So that was a lot of eSupplier information. Again, moving back to strategic sourcing, if we look at our bidding opportunities, okay, these are the opportunities that are specific to this supplier. The supplier has been invited by your organization. So here, it's not just informational. They can actually participate and respond to a bid. So they can click on the bid. Again, as before, they can view the bid package. They have the ability to bid, upload a bid, accept the invitation, or decline the invitation. They can also view discussions, so they can, if there's been a lot of discussions, clarifications, etc., they can participate in the message board. So if a supplier were to take action and bid on the event, they could certainly do so here. Bidding on the event, they can go down, look at the lines. If they go over here to bid, they can go ahead and put in the quantity. One was requested, one is being provided. They can put in their unit price. And they go down here to validate entries. See, we even get an error. So what they've done is there's an error at the top that they have not responded to one of the questions. So one of the things that they needed to put in was the warranty. So if they put in 2 years, they can go ahead again and validate the entries. No errors found. At that point, they've responded to the price, the quantity, and the warranty. They can go ahead and submit their bid. So again, making the auction, the event process very interactive and very quick. Again, eliminating paper follow-up, email follow-up, phone follow-up, because it's all here. It's all online. You can also contact the event organizer. Okay. Additionally, we have the same notice of intent to award, secure version. These would be, again, the events that the supplier participated in, very similar to what was in the public portal, except you can have more detail. You could be much more specific here in your rejection reasons than you were in the public version. But same information, just specific to the supplier. And there's also awarded events. Here we have one awarded event in the past 1,000 days. Again, we showed you before where that duration can be changed. Here, the supplier can go in and look and see what was awarded. And in this case, it was a, as it comes up, purchase order for 3 years of pest control services at a PO price of $740 and extended amount of $2220. So the supplier has the ability to see what has been awarded. Okay. So those are some of the things with strategic sourcing: bidding, notice of intent to award, and awarded events. Now, extending to supplier contracts. Now, supplier contracts really allows an organization to use PeopleSoft to create clauses and build contracts, and then send those contracts through PeopleSoft to your supplier, so your supplier can act on them, make it interactive. It avoids the process of manually creating Word legal documents, sending them through email, redlining them, emailing them back and forth. Puts it in PeopleSoft. And then from there, once it's in PeopleSoft, you can certainly act on the parameters of the contract, et cetera. So it makes it very efficient. So that's what supplier contracts is. So what this allows your supplier to do is log in and say, do I have any contracts that need my attention? So they can see here, for example, there are contracts that are pending review. They have this agreement where they can look at the details. They can see that it's a keyboard purchase agreement. It's pending review. They can see collaboration content, comments, etc. I'm not set up to open it here, but they would open up the main document and contract. They can edit it. They can upload revised documents. They can save their comments. They can mark it as reviewed. They can add attachments, etc. So all this is going on back and forth right inside of PeopleSoft. And eventually, when those contracts are approved, then the next action of applying those contract parameters to purchasing, etc., can be extended. And then along with contracts, once you have contracts, sometimes there's actions or deliverables that have to occur. So your supplier can actually manage the deliverables here. In this case, for example, once this particular contract was agreed upon, a copy of the warranty has to be provided. So the verification step is provide a copy of the warranty. Supplier will log in. They could view the contract. They could provide a copy of the warranty. They could send off an email with all the information and fulfill their obligations to provide a copy of the warranty. So that ensuring that all the additional steps that have to occur after a contract is negotiated can be done, and the supplier can manage that. Again, eliminating a lot of the maintenance and burden of phone calls, emails, etc., following up on this because it's all stored right here in the PeopleSoft solution. So now the big time saver is in invoices and payments, which is associated with eSettlements. So I think everybody's aware your AP organization spends lots of time picking up the phone, answering questions from suppliers about, where's the payment, why is it in dispute, etc. So this becomes very interactive. And before we get into the details, I think Amira wanted to chat about a success story using eSettlements.
Thanks, Larry. Yes. So guys, as Larry was saying, AP is overburdened with answering supplier calls. And I call PeopleSoft eSettlements the reduce the annoying vendor calls product, right? One of our big customers, Kaiser Permanente, large healthcare, implemented the Supplier Portal, and they rolled out eSettlements first to their suppliers. So here's what they did. They rolled it out to 1,000 suppliers, and they eliminated 250,000 calls into accounts payable. That's a pretty awesome thing. So based on what Larry's going to show you just now, this is what one customer was able to achieve. Thanks, Larry.
Right, thank you. All right, so if we click on invoices and payments, you'll see there's lots of options here on inquiry and actually self-service invoicing. So let's just look at the invoice inquiry. So again, the idea here is you're providing your supplier with the ability to inquiry on their invoices. So again, as in other things, they can certainly filter the time frame to have a more manageable list, if you will. But here we do want to at least look at what the suppliers could see. So for example, here they could look at this invoice ID. Okay, they know that they can see that there's some comments. They know it's been submitted, the dollar amount, and they know that it's unpaid. So they could click on the comments, and they could see that please attach the PO document with the invoice for further processing. So they could respond, they could provide and attach a document, and they could post it. So they can immediately take action on what is wrong in order to associated with that invoice and payment. And of course, they can look at the details as well to get information about that particular invoice. So if you can imagine all the calls you get about something that hasn't been processed as quickly as the suppliers would like, which is always very quickly, then you're giving this information to your suppliers can really reduce those phone calls and speed up the process for your supplier, because they can immediately know what's wrong and address it very quickly. So a lot of value in this particular functionality alone. Very similar with payment inquiry. Supplier can look at see the status of payments, whether it's been paid or avoided. So again, they can get a summary of the information here. They can click on the details. They can understand that in this case, it's been paid, the date has been paid, system check, the dollar amount, etc., voucher ID. So all the information they would need to know about payment status. And of course, any payment that has not been paid or voided, again, they can look and see why it was voided, and again, reducing the burden of those phone calls and administration on your internal staff. They can also participate in dispute resolution. So you'll see there's a summary of invoices in dispute. As they are involved, they can go ahead and they can click on an invoice, and they can see that, yep, it is in dispute. They can get all the information about that they need regarding that particular invoice, and they can see why it's in dispute. If they need verification, payment set on hold, they can add new comments, and that process can continue. So, and again, instead of the phone call, the email back and forth, it can be done. It can be very interactive, and more on your internal staff's own timing, as opposed to those phone calls that come in at the most inopportune moment. Your suppliers can also create self-service invoices. So here, they can certainly look at the status of invoices, as we've already looked at, but they can also create their own invoices. So here, it's again guided process. They can put in the invoice ID. They can put in the requester information. They can put in, oops. Oh, they can put in invoice details. Here's where they can simply go to purchase order. We know everything starts with the PO. They can select the PO. They can select the lines they want to put on the invoice. Okay. They could also do that from the receipt. If there's a receipt, they could add it from the receipt and add in sales tax, shipping amount, etc., and submit it. And that invoice would go right into AP for approval processing, etc. So again, this is going to be something that you extend to your suppliers and give them that self-service capability. And also, I forgot, when it comes to dispute resolution, Amira, I think you wanted to talk about some dynamic discounting.
Yeah, so guys, one thing about what you just did, Larry, as well. So Larry entered a self-service invoice. You can also expose to the supplier what we determined or we delivered in image 28 with the fluids eSettlements, the PO flip. So they can go to the PO's inquiry or the PO page, the listing, and do related action rather, and click on PO flip. It'll bring them to the supplier self-service. It'll bring them exactly here, and all they have to do is enter the invoice number right, which is the unique number that they need to put in. And if everything is good from the PO, you're literally taking all the information from the PO and making it the invoice, if you will. If everything is cool, you click through, 3 clicks plus the invoice ID, and you submit the transaction. This is appropriate for material type of activity. Definitely something they can use when they don't have to change the invoice, which is easier to act on. So dynamic discounting. We put in dynamic discounting or ad hoc discounting in release 9.1 for eSettlements. The ability of the supplier to offer the buyer, you guys, to offer your suppliers a discount, right? If the supplier pays you earlier, if you pay the, I'm getting my AR and AP mixed up. If you pay your supplier earlier, do you get a higher discount? Or they can make them, you the same offer. So it's an interactive collaboration between you and your supplier, as is the rest of these settlements. But the point is to reduce your liabilities and for the customer, for your supplier rather, reduce their receivable. So your liabilities go down, their receivables go down. It's a kind of a win-win situation. So online real-time proposal management, if you will, of here are the invoices that I can pay early, how much am I going to get, etc. And so we put that into 9.1. Kaiser actually, continuing with the success story of Kaiser, they implemented dynamic discounting when they first implemented eSettlements, and they did change it. So we are talking to them about what they made, the changes they made into the feature itself. But they actually said they reduced their liabilities by $250,000 in 4 months of using that particular feature, that particular ability to offer earlier payment in lieu of a higher discount. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And then I know we're down to about 10 minutes here, and I want to leave a few minutes for questions. The other thing I mentioned, services procurement, managed services. I'm not set up for that, but certainly, there's actions these suppliers can take around that as well. One of the other things I wanted to just show is real quickly supplier dashboard. So you can extend, information to your suppliers about their performance. So, for example, on-time performance, quantity performance. Supplier can look at the results, and obviously, supplier wants to be on time, have high on-time performance often, so they can look and dig into the details by period, by year, understand what their on-time performance is, early, late, etc. And this should give your supplier information to understand how they're doing. Shouldn't be any surprise if you have to have those conversations with their suppliers about, good or bad performance, and hopefully giving them the information allows them to be a better supplier. And of course, certainly at the dashboard, all of this information is, configurable as to what you want them to see, what type of data you want to see, what type of other actions from the portal as well. But giving them that type of data, hopefully, you have better suppliers, and they can take action and understand where they're doing well and where they need to improve. So we went over a lot in the demo. I'm going to flip back to the presentation here. So I know before we get into a couple of the information sources, Bob, I know you had some additional information you wanted to share about, I think, classification and certification.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. So we're working on an initiative to help with supplier classifications. Think of this as diversity. And you are able to, or soon will be able to, configure what classifications you want to track. So there's going to be multiple phases in this.
We lost you, Bob. Yep. Bob, you still there? Amira, can you hear me?
Yeah, Larry, I can hear you.
Okay. Didn't know if I dropped or if it was Bob. All right, well, Bob, we lost you. I'm going to continue on, and if you come back, we'll go ahead and have you continue.
They'll give your organization. Yeah, I'm here. Are you able to hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob, I'm sorry. We lost you right from the beginning, so if you want to go ahead and we really have to start from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So we have a new initiative that's called Supplier Classification and Certificate Management. And what this is it's a way for your organization to configure the classifications or say diversity settings that you want to track as an organization. So you'll be able to build out the classifications, and then over the course of time, you're going to be able to map those classifications to your existing suppliers. So we could provide you kind of a what-if scenario if you do happen to use that configuration. And then we're also expose those new classifications to your suppliers when they do registrations and change requests. So that would allow your suppliers to self-register as a particular classification. And then on the certificate side, so this is maybe insurance documents or any minority type classification documents that are needed to set some eligibility. So these documents typically expire after a certain point in time, and the certificate management piece will help you keep on top of those types of certificates. So if there's something set to expire, you'll have a dashboard and alerts notifying you that something's about to expire, so you can take proactive action as well. And then the final piece will be delivering the tools that you can help create your reports or help with your reporting needs. So those are a huge initiative that we're currently working on and is currently in development. So look for that over the course of the next year or two.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Real quick information sources that you'll see in the presentation. Sorry. There's a white paper on Supplier Portal. You can find that on our website. I've done some more detailed blogs on strategic sourcing, people books, business process maps, and of course, PeopleSoftInfo.com has lots of great information. There are some pieces of information such as the supplier registration process, which is always a question and area that people have needs a lot of information about. And you can see here that it talks about the online registration process, approval rule settings, approval framework, etc., and how you get that set up. And then just outline kind of the key functionality of all the different modules we talked about: eSupplier, eSettlements, strat sourcing, etc. And then with that, I know we have a couple of minutes left. Linda, do we have any questions that came in that myself or Bob or Amira can answer?
Yes, the first question is, does the user registration include AWE approvals that can be configured once a supplier bidder has self-registered?
So yeah, I'll answer, then Bob and Amira, you can either add or correct, but once the supplier goes through the process and hits that submit button, then the approval workflow process, as you have it configured in your system, takes over as you would, the process of approving suppliers in your system. Anything to add to that?
That's no change. No additions on my side. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Linda.
Yes, we have a next question. Can banking information be restricted on who can see it?
So when you say banking information, you mean so the supplier is entering it to the registration, or are your internal folks doing all the work?
They did not specify.
Okay, so you can, so and Bob can correct me here, the supplier registration was built so that you can say what the supplier will see versus what they won't, right? You can templatize the whole situation. So you don't have to have payment information as part of the activity guide, right, for supplier registration. If you mean you want some people in the organization to see it but not others, that's a different question. I'm not sure that we have that ability, although we just put in the data masking feature via page and field configurator. So I would imagine that you can leverage that in the supplier registration pages.
Yeah, that's right.
Bob, I don't know if there's an answer. Yeah.
No, I was going to say the same thing on the masking piece, that page and field configurator should be able to help or assist with that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, next question is, we currently are not using supplier self-service. Is the eSettlement part of the supplier self-service, or is it a separate module to implement?
Okay, so the supplier self-service is a broad and general term that talks about everything that Larry's covered in his presentation today and more, right? Supplier Portal, let's talk about what implements it or what makes everything work. Supplier Portal is a structure, if you will, and if you have AP or PO license, you have rights to that structure. Now, what comes with the structure, or what needs to happen in the structure, is the products, right, the content. So for the supplier to see the invoices and to enter an invoice and to do a PO flip and to do all this beautiful stuff that you just saw, you need to have PeopleSoft eSettlements implemented, and you need to, that module is a purchase module. So you don't get it for free with AP, for example. So that's an eSettlement. If you want to do the purchase order dispatches and the acknowledgement by the supplier, that's eSupplier connection and some of the content additionally that Larry showed in the other products. But supplier self-service is the broad umbrella that covers all of this. And the portal is a structure that you have. The products become the content within that structure and what you saw demoed today. Hopefully that helps. The answer is you need to buy eSettlements, yes.
That's right.
All right, and then we have another question. Is the Kaiser success story a recent implementation?
So the answer to that is yes. In fact, I'm trying to remember my timeline here. So Kaiser came to the customer advisory board. We were in May or February of 2019-ish, and they had implemented it the previous year. So let's say they implemented in 2018. Within the first 4 months of use, they saved $250,000 from using dynamic discounting. But I will say they customized it. So I want to make sure I cover myself here. They did customize the feature, but the point is they took it, changed it slightly, they told me. Slightly, it's a big term here. And they rolled it out. Now, with the rollout to the supplier base of the Fluids eSettlements, which Larry showed, the invoice inquiries, the payment inquiry, the file uploads, they used all of these things. But just from the inquiries alone, they reduced the overhead of 250,000 calls. Kaiser has been nice enough to talk to customers about what they've done. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. I have to make a request, a special favor, and ask for something. So if there's something that you need or some question that you have, we can look at it. But yes, it is a very recent implementation, and they are in the process actually of implementing the rest of the solution set, which is to include eSupplier connections. They just went with eSettlements first.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Amira. I know we're at the top of the hour. Linda, I think there's quite a few questions, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, there are.
Yeah. So I think what we can do is we will get those questions. We'll answer those questions, and we'll do two things. We can post them on our website, and we can distribute them to all the attendees, since we have your email address. So might take. I know looks like there's about probably over 30 questions. So might take us a little bit of a while to get through all those, but we can go ahead and distribute those and get them to everybody.
Larry, if there are questions, if anything is for us to answer about roadmap or something about licensing or products, please let us know. We're happy to support the answers.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll definitely do that. And then,
Sure.
Linda, real quick, did you see any roadmap questions offhand?
I did not.
This one is? Okay. All right. Well, we'll go through them in detail, and if we do, I'll definitely reach out to Amira. But so I'd like to thank Amira and Bob for attending, providing the additional content, the great answers, and thank you everybody else for attending. Like I said, we will go through those questions, and we will get through them, and we will distribute them. Thank you so much for everybody's participation.
Thank you all.
Thanks for having us, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you.